This week's episode of I Was a Teenage Film Snob is not brought to you by misdeeds or villainy.
Make me laugh, make me cry. Don't go in there, you're going to die. Grab a drink from the room, pass the popcorn and away we go. I was a teenage film snob, baby. I was a teenage film snob, baby.
Welcome to I Was a Teenage Film Snob. I'm James Chalmers, your friendly neighborhood film snob. Guys, it's another solo episode, and you know, when I'm riding solo, I've got to have a guest. And we've been focusing a lot on industry people lately, which has been wonderful and exciting and been blowing my mind. But it's nice to talk to a fan from time to time. And I don't mean my fan, I mean fan of movies. That would be very big-headed of myself. And today I'm really excited because this person is relatively new in the kind of review talk scene. But boy, has she made a splash. You know someone is good at what they do when you're having conversations about them instead of the movies they're talking about. And this person has had a huge impact on myself and a couple of my friends in the podcasting circles and stuff like that. She has an incredible YouTube channel. She's so real and genuine and just brings this real infectious joy and passion to talking about movies, and honestly makes me want to be better at what I do. So I could go on and on about her content, and I probably will, but we should just bring her on the show. So please welcome the host of Real Talk with Jenabeth. It's Jenabeth Gunter. Welcome to the show, Jenabeth.
Hello, James. Thank you so much for that great introduction. And I say you have a lot of fans. I mean, like there are people tuning into this podcast because of you and the insight and excitement that you bring to movies in general. So you're amazing. And I don't really know anyone else in Australia, so now I can say I have an Australian friend.
You're very kind, and absolutely, you got an Australian friend. Probably more than you realize. We're we're big fans. Everyone I speak to in the circle, like you just. I don't know whether you followed me first or I followed you. It's quite possible you followed me just because I'm terrible with creating connections on social media. But the minute we kind of connected, I saw your content. I was like, oh my god, like this is the next thing. Like what you're doing right now is so fun and engaging. I think you're doing it better than most. Like it's just a joy to watch you do your YouTube videos. And I'm particularly a big fan of when you interview family members. I know you had your mum on.
Right.
And was it your aunt? And you were talking about the hottest superheroes?
Oh yes, it was actually my grandmother.
Your grandmother,
89
sorry.
years old. Yeah, so it's so funny. Yeah, so I'll talk about movies that and I just know my own opinions of them, what I thought. But if I'm ever having a conversation with my mom or my grandmother or my sister, sometimes just for content purposes, it's fun just to get other people's perspective. So yeah, I appreciate you saying that you like seeing my family members on my channels.
Well, I think I like it so much because that's what I've done. When I first started this show back in 2022, the first episode I ever recorded, it wasn't the first episode posted, but the first episode I recorded was with my dad, who at the time would have been 71. And he's done a couple of episodes now. So he's been on a few times. I've had my sister and my mother on a few times. My mum, hardest guest to nail down. I've had Hollywood people on, but my mother took a year to convince her to do the show. So she's the real podcast whale. Like she's the hard one to get. Congratulations on everything you're doing and welcome. It's so nice to have you here. When did you start the show? I know you do a YouTube you've got a YouTube page. I can't say words today. I'm doing well. I know you've got TikTok and Instagram as well. So when did it all begin for you? When did you start doing this?
So I guess when it comes to the name of your podcast, I Was a Teenage Film Snob, it was actually fitting because I got into movies as a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
And in my specific instance, I grew up in a really small town in Texas called Oldton, Texas, very small town, about 2,000 people, very rural. And there's not a lot to do in this town.
Mm-hmm.
There's no movie theater, there is no grocery store, wow. It's very little to do. So what I ended up doing for fun a lot is watch movies. Like there was a Redbox in town, I'd go pick stuff out. We subscribed to Netflix, back in old school days when they would deliver a DVD to your house.
So when is this? Sorry to interrupt you, but you mentioned Redbox. I grew up in the 90s, so we would go to the video store. Redbox, I know, was kind of the successor to the video store. So what year are we talking when you're doing this?
I wonder, so I think so. Red boxes are still around. I've seen them
Yeah.
at some convenience stores still. I don't know when they kind of got a little bit more popular. This must have been between like 2007 to 2011
Yep.
era or something, where it's like a vending machine for
Hmm.
movies, and it was outside of my town's Dollar General. It's probably still there to this day and probably still horribly calibrated. Every time you try to press a button, it never would work. um but yeah, and obviously being in a small Texas town, a lot of dare I say, worship is done for sports. You like football, basketball, all that stuff. And I just was never really into sports, and I'm still not. I was always into movies. So being in a small town with nothing to do, I just kind of ended up getting into enjoying watching movies. We also had TCM, the channel at
Yeah.
my house, which is for Turner Classic Movies. So I would watch some classic films on there. And I kind of had a bit of a lull, like whenever I went to college and in my young adult life and whatnot, started to watch less movies. And then it wasn't until recently that I was like, you know what? I think this is kind of a big part of who I am and something that I'm passionate about. And actually, before we started recording for the listeners, I was telling James about how I'm a single mom and I work a full time corporate job. I have a little 3-year-old toddler, and essentially, the cycles of life can become very mundane. It's
Mm.
just the same thing over and over again. 8 to 5 corporate job, mom life in the evenings, extracurricular activity stuff on the weekends, mom dates, whatnot. And I just didn't really have anything for myself.
Mhm.
And so back in February, I decided, you know what, just for fun, I'm going to start up some social media pages just for me to talk about movies, because I don't really have an outlet for that with any of my friends specifically or anybody. So I started up a YouTube channel and a TikTok page and an Instagram page called Real Talk with Jenabeth. And then I've just been and then I started posting content, and it's been almost half a year now, and I just feel like I've gained just a small little community in a way through all those channels, and just getting to talk to new people and make virtual friends with people, and it's been a fun ride. And I hope I'll be able to continue to grow my community and meet other like film talkers and whatnot. But it's been really fun, and I appreciate everyone that's been so supportive, that say that they enjoy my content because I enjoy theirs.
Mm.
And yeah, just kind of getting to be a part of the cool film community online. It's been fun.
It's really great, and boy, you're a storyteller. I would ask the question, like, oh, I haven't even got to that, and you just painted a word picture. It was brilliant. Um, so many things you said, I felt so seen during that. You know, you mentioned growing up in a small town that's very focused on sports, being Texas. That is Australia's heritage. The thing that Australians care about more than anything is sport, and that was me. Like, I played a little bit when I was a teenager, but my late teens, I really, really also like, I've loved movies my entire life, but my teenage years is where I really, started making choices about what I was watching, and I started studying film and stuff like that. And I was like, oh my god, do we need to kick another ball? Like, can't we watch something? Doesn't have to be highbrow. We can watch like an Adam Sandler film, but can't we like just put the ball down for a second? And yeah, it's a very much a sporting nation. And until I found film community, I kind of felt out of place as well, because like it's
Hmm.
just not my jam. Like, nothing against it, I just wouldn't line up for it myself. And so hearing you talking about that, and hearing you talk about being a parent and needing those things for yourself as well, like, even like with the help of my wife, like my wife's been on the show a few times as well, but we also have to kind of find that schedule where it's like, all right, tonight it's my time to get some alone time, and next time will be your time to get some alone time. And you know, you would never complain about having a kid. Like, it's amazing. Like, I love being a parent, but they steal your time. They thieve your time and they drain your soul. I'm just kidding.
Yes,
Uh,
we love them, but it comes with sacrifice,
huh.
which whenever you asked me to be on this podcast and to talk about my favorite movies, and I messaged you back and I said, hey, so they're all going to have a theme.
Yes.
And okay, so here's the theme. Speaking of sacrifice, because parents make the sacrifices for their kids all the time, but all of my favorite movies all have a hero theme. They all have a heroic type person, and I am a sucker for a hero story. And I think what draws me to it is I love the idea of an ordinary person becoming extraordinary
Yes.
and just
Yes.
seeing that play out in all sorts of different scenarios. So I am a superhero nerd, a regular grounded hero nerd. I just love all the hero stories. So that's kind of a little common theme that you're going to see among all my top 5 favorite movies.
Awesome. I love it. And you mentioned you kind of really discovered film as a teenager. Was it introduced to you by someone? Was it a family member who started kind of bringing you to movies? Was it a friend, or did you just kind of seek out and find on your own?
It was a bit more on my own. I wouldn't call any of my family members cinephiles, but I do come from a movie loving family.
Mm.
I would say my own immediate family is very chill.
Yep.
There are different families out there that there's like a joke in America, like, oh, are you part of a family that goes to run a 5K on Thanksgiving morning? That's not my family.
Mine either.
There are families that are very active. They're always out doing something, and my family is very much like, let's stay at home and watch a movie. Let's go eat out. Let's go walk around at the mall or go to a museum or something. But it's a lot more chill activities
Mm.
than active activities. And once again, going back to my upbringing in a small town, just a whole not a lot to do, and I've always just been fascinated by stories. And I think, growing up as a teenager, I think everybody goes through that identity struggle of trying to figure out who they are, where they fit in. A lot of people will talk about feeling outcasted as a teenager and
Mm.
whatnot. So, depending on everyone's individual experience, I think we can all agree that when it comes to movies, it's just that source of escapism.
Hmm.
So, I just loved watching movies to just escape from whatever my own insecurities were at the time. And especially stories that had to do with like a heroic figure
Mm.
and overcoming adversity. So,
Yeah. 100%. No, I think we can all relate to that. I've talked about this quite a bit on the show, but my parents divorced when I was 13. Perfect time, by the way. Perfect time to make that decision. I still thank them for that. As I was going through all those hormonal changes and needed my family.
oh,
Um, and that's when I really got into film. Like, I always loved movies. Like, we went to the video store as kids and we watched them all the time. Like, every Friday night you're picking up a video and stuff. But once I was 13, I had a TV in my room, I had a DVD player, and I had a reason to escape. And that's when like that love affair began for me. So it sounds like whilst we had maybe slightly different journeys, the motivator was the same, which was let's just get out of whatever this is and then escape to it.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And still to this day, like still to this day, like you're talking about not having that identity crisis and not really knowing who you are as a teenager. I don't know about you and I don't know about other people, but I feel like I only kind of wrangled that and came to terms with it maybe in my 30s. Like sometimes that identity
I'm
crisis takes,
still actively in an identity crisis.
yeah,
So,
I think we
like,
all are.
we are still figuring it out for sure. But I just think it's like magnified when you're a teenager.
Yeah, absolutely. I talk about it all the time with other parents and stuff. Like you forget when you get older, you forget that like when you were 15, everything that happened meant it was life or death. It was like the world will end if it doesn't.
Right.
Everything's
Yes,
so important when you're
absolutely.
15. And then when you become an adult, when you kind of hit your 30s, you kind of mellow out a bit. But I do remember that. I've got a niece who's going through that at the moment, and everyone's like, "Ah, it's cool, like don't worry about it." And I've said to her, I'm like, "Hey, it sucks and it's going to suck for years, but
Mhm.
eventually this will
Mhm.
pass and it will stop meaning so much. But right now, just feel those feelings, man. Like it's going to be awful for a bit
Yes.
and then it's going to get better. But may I recommend some movies for you? And that might help pass the time. you know?
Right, yeah. I
Um,
love that.
Jenabeth, you're already so fun to talk to. I'm digging this. I don't think we need to beat around the bush. You've got a list. You've planned. You were telling me
I
about your
like to
notes.
come prepared. I was like, dude, I don't want to come not without a plan. So I have my like notes in front of me. I was telling James, I was like, all right, so my printer's really slow. I printed out my notes for my first four, but my number one, it took too long to print, so I'm just gonna have to look on my phone for the notes. He was like, it's fine, it's
Yeah,
fine.
I literally
So
have my phone in my hand. I
I
take
know,
notes
yeah.
while we talk, so it's all good. Um, you've got a theme you mentioned. You've got notes. You might be the most prepared guest we have. You've got spoilers and three-act structure introductions. I'm very excited for this. Before we get into your five, are there any honorable mentions? Is there anything you want to shout out briefly, or you just want to get stuck straight into your top five?
So my honorable mentions that I will call out is I absolutely adore The Lion King. I not only think that is one of Disney's best animated movies of all time, but just one of the greatest movies of all
Yes,
time. It's so
absolutely.
tight. The soundtrack, the reclaiming the throne story. It's
Mm.
just peak Disney. I absolutely love it. And I also love Singing in the Rain
You know,
with Gene Kelly
I've never
and
seen Singing in the Rain.
is it Betty Reynolds? It's one of my favorite classic musicals. And it's aged so well. It's so
Mm,
timeless, and the dance numbers in it,
mm,
the cinematography, the colors. It still has aged well.
mm.
So it's very lovely. So if anybody like enjoys musicals, that they have not seen Singing in the Rain, that'd be one that I recommend to them.
It's one of my kind of gray areas in my movie watch experiences. I haven't seen enough classics. I'm trying to be better at that. I've got a handful on the wall that I've watched, and just most recently, I just went through all the old Universal Monsters films. So there's old '30s horror films. So I'm getting there. I'm catching up on some of the stuff. So
Yeah.
Singing in the
I
Rain's definitely on
still
my
haven't
list.
seen there's so many classic movies that I have not seen. There's so many famous franchises that I haven't seen that I
Mm.
think on my channel it'd be fun to eventually say, I finally watched this movie in this famous franchise. So be on the lookout for that in the next 5 years, maybe,
Yeah.
whenever I finally get around to it. But yeah, I think I have a lot of cinematic blind spots for sure. But then it kind of makes it fun that I can see something now and still appreciate it, and then also maybe view something with not as much nostalgia, and I'm just objectively seeing it. So yeah,
Nice one. I like that. I've never heard that phrase before. Cinematic blind spot. I like that a lot, actually. That's a really good one.
yes, I have a lot of those, so we can start using that.
A great term. If it has, we've coined and minted it here first. We've got to call up,
Right.
copyright it before the episode goes out. Amazing. Very, very cool. I'm the same. I think most people are. I'm not. One I've found since being on Instagram and doing the online thing, it's been overwhelmingly positive, which shocked me. I was like, I'm putting thoughts out on the internet about movies. This is going to be rough. And it's actually been the complete opposite. But there is
Hmm.
that kind of like level of gatekeeping where if you haven't seen something, you're immediately shamed for not seeing it. So I don't buy into that at all. I think that's ridiculous, especially when we were born so late in the century. Like, I haven't seen all those
Right,
movies from the
right.
1930s and 40s. I was born in '88. Look, I'm sorry. Like, I haven't even seen all the movies from '88 yet. Like,
Oh
I haven't.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I have no problem with the cinematic blind spot. In fact, I love it when I do because if someone else has seen it, then I'm like, great, recommendation for me. I can add it to the list. So you
Hmm.
talking as passionately about Singing in the Rain as you just did, I'm like, well, now I've got to move it up. Like now I've got to get to it sooner because Jenabeth has told me I'm a fan of what she does. I trust her judgment. Add it to the list. So hopefully
Yeah.
by the time this episode drops, hopefully I'll have seen it. I'll have to pick it up on Blu-ray somewhere.
Yeah, or like in 5 years, if you eventually see it, then you can tag me in your post on Instagram and be like, at Real Talk Jenabeth, I finally saw Singing in the
Yeah.
Rain. And I'll be like, yes.
If I
So,
make you wait 5 years for that review, I'm a horrible person. I'll get there sooner. Um, all right, Jenabeth, what's let's get into your list. What's number five? Did you have trouble coming up with this list? Because I find it's a very unfair question to pick five movies.
I think so. My top three are pretty set in stone as my
Hmm.
favorites. When it came to the other two, I did have to think more about kind of going back to my honorable mentions
Mm,
with Singing in the Rain and The Lion King. There's one here that's my number four pick that is mainly there because it means the most to me,
mm,
but not as much of like, oh, I think this film is objectively better than the honorable mentions, if that makes
yeah.
sense. And I think whenever it comes to someone's favorite films, um, I mean, it's so subjective, and it's such a cool
Yes.
question to ask somebody because, you know, you could always take the cinephile approach by naming off movies that like all the critics love or something. But whenever you're listing off movies that mean the most to you and you ask the person to describe why, you usually find out a lot about them. And part of a thing that makes so for me, when it comes to my favorite movies, what I think about the most is how much I want to rewatch it. Because there's
Yes.
a lot of movies that I see it and objectively speaking, like, oh man, that was like a masterpiece. That's amazing. But it's not one that I would rewatch. But all of my top five favorites are rewatchables
Yes.
for me for sure. And part of the reasons why they're rewatchable is oftentimes maybe, I mean, yes, there's for the pure entertainment value of it. But then there's also a piece of it that because maybe you watched this movie at a time in your life when you were younger, you're not just re watching these scenes that were entertaining the first time, but you're almost like reliving these moments from your past in a way, and you're
Hmm.
getting to re-experience those feelings again. And that's kind of why nostalgia plays such a big role with, you know, quote favorite movies. But I love all of these stories here because it feels like I can relive, you know, parts of my own childhood or remind myself of the themes in these movies that I really enjoy, or just go into it for the escapism because of just
Mm,
how entertaining, I mean, like entertaining and fun it is to
yeah.
watch.
I love that.
So,
That's the approach that I take, and I think a lot of people on the show previously have tried to take as well. Because you're right, like you can take the cinephile approach, but I'll be perfectly honest. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Schindler's List is an amazing film. I never need to see it again. I do not need to. Do you know what I mean? Like I have
yeah,
felt the guilt and the shame and the fear and the tragedy, and it's brilliant. And Spielberg did that and Jurassic Park in the same year. It's crazy.
right.
I will choose Jurassic Park every time. And it's not because it's necessarily a better film, but like at the end of the day, like it's so emotionally
It's
exhausting
it's
and
more rewatchable for you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or like the other example I use is, The Godfather is an amazing film, but I've watched Tommy Wiseau's The Room way more than The Godfather. And The Room is not a better film than The Godfather, but gee, is it fun. If I sit down with some
Right,
friends, do you know what I mean?
right.
Like it is a
Yeah.
great time. So the rewatchability factor I think is huge, and that's yeah, the way I always approach these lists as well. Anyway, enough about me. I can't stop talking about myself. We need to talk about you, Jenabeth. Let's jump into number five. What have you got for me? Set the scene.
Okay. So this one and another one on my list I think are going to be like the cinephiles would be like in agreement. And it is Back to the Future
Yes.
from 1985. And and this goes without saying, like James said, you're listening to a movie podcast, so spoilers ahead. We'll get
Spoilers for a
into
40-year-old movie, guys.
right, right. For the protagonist, the story beats, things like that. Okay, so this movie is directed by Robert Zemeckis. Before this, he had directed Romancing the Stone. He then went on to direct Forrest Gump and Castaway. Fantastic director. We've got Michael J. Fox as Marty McFly in this iconic, like groundbreaking role. He's the snarky teen caught in a time travel experiment trying to save his family's future. Our main antagonist is Biff Tannen, played by Thomas F. Wilson. He's essentially a time spanning bully who torments Marty in his family and father in the present and also in the past. And then we've got the key side characters of Dr. Emmett Doc Brown, played by Christopher Lloyd. He's the eccentric scientist who invents the time machine. And then we've got Lorraine Baines and George McFly, Marty's parents. So to kind of set the stage for it, we get like introduced to the characters. Marty is a cool slacker with big dreams and a complicated family dynamic. Doc is the eccentric scientist working on a mysterious project. And then we've got key elements like the clock tower and the DeLorean and the plutonium theft and Marty's relationship with his parents. This is all planted in Act One. And then we kind of get into the action where in the revelation, Marty is time traveling to the past and he meets his teenage parents and disrupts their original meeting. So, this is the quintessential kind of like blueprint of the time travel movie. And we've seen lots of different time travel movies since this one, but this one has not been remade and rebooted for a reason. It's just so timeless, and uh, just the acting from Michael J. Fox and all of the side characters, the parents of played by Lorraine Baines, or sorry, played by Leah Thompson and Crispin Glover, just have the best dynamics, and it's just so fun to see this quote modern guy now. Because granted, this movie came out in the 80s, is going back in time to the 50s, and him bringing all of his modern day knowledge into this like time period, and just all the little subtle payoffs, all the little full circles to things in the future that exist for a reason because of what happened in the past. And it's comedic, it's got character growth and deep themes, and it's just a really fun watch from start to finish. And then, kind of like going into Act 3 at the school dance, George stands up to Biff, which is the bully, and then Marty ends up saving the timeline. And then, after, just a big suspenseful moment of being in the DeLorean, wondering if he's going to make it back to the future because that lightning has to strike right at the right time, he barely makes it, and then gets to the future, and then everything comes full circle based off of all of the previous events that happened in the film. So I mean, there's a lot of things that I can talk about with this, but James, like, what are some elements from this movie that just really stand out to you, that you're like, that this is a quintessential 80s movie? And for me, this is my favorite 80s movie, period. So what makes it stand out to you as a movie?
Well, first of all, this is in my top 5 as well. So I'm really good.
Oh,
I'm so excited.
high
As soon as you said it, I was like, yes, this is
five.
absolutely in my top
Okay.
5. I love this film. It's not the first film my dad showed me, but very early on. And when I met my wife, we bonded over the fact that this was one of our favorite. It's in her top 5 favorite films as well. Like we didn't know each other, and then we both kind of bonded over this. It's incredible. It's crazy
Mm-hmm.
how well it holds up,
Mm-hmm.
even with the really weird whole potential incest plot. It still holds up really well.
I know. It is a questionable, like, has that aged well? Maybe not, but it actually still works and it's comedic.
Yeah, exactly. Like it ages incredibly well. You talked about underdogs becoming heroes. I love this film because Marty, like, he presents himself as cool, but Marty's not cool. Like, Marty's cool in the 50s, but in the 80s he's not. I like that he's an underdog. I like that, like, his best
Hmm.
friend is a dude in his 60s. Like,
Yes. And their relationship, no one knows how they became friends. It's a mystery. And that's
yeah.
kind of what makes it fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I love Crispin Glover. I've been a big fan of his for a long time. Apparently he's about as weird in real life as he is in these movies, but I like him as George. The soundtrack, obviously, like all the Huey Lewis and the News and that iconic
Hmm.
Silvestri theme, like it just cements itself in your head. I think it's it should be the blueprint for modern adventure stories. I think, like,
Right.
it's definitely this sci-fi drama, like this story about, because there's a real sense of threat in this film. Like, if he doesn't sort it out, like, he's going to die. His family's going to get erased. And Biff is a horrible, horrible character. Like, he makes advances
We
on.
love to hate him.
Yeah, but, like, if you look at that third act in the parking lot, like, that is a pretty, like, if it wasn't in Back to the Future, it would be a pretty menacing scene. Like, it's really full. He's a nasty piece of
Oh,
work,
yeah.
but
Hmm.
it's also balanced with this uninhibited joy. Like, it's just like we're going on an adventure, and yes, things are going to get scary and worrying, and we might run out of time, but we're going to have fun along the way. And even though Marty's not the coolest guy, he's a fun guy to be around, and he's got some opinions. And I don't know. Like I think it balances every element perfectly. I think everything you want from an action
Mhm.
adventure film, like, and that's some of the problems we've seen in recent years with some movies. Like where these and superheroes, for example. Now, I personally love Man of Steel. Man of Steel is one of my favorite comic book movies, but I understand the criticisms. Like, that is a dark story about a character who's supposed to be full of hope. Like, it is a very grounded
Mhm.
postmodern 2000s interpretation. Like, everything is muted and darker, whereas this modern one, this new one, which I haven't seen yet, seems to be more Back to the Future. Like, let's celebrate it. Let's get some color in here, some joy. So I love that it manages to tell a thrilling story without sacrificing humor or joy or passion. And I think it
Absolutely.
yeah. So anyway, this is on your top five list. Why am I talking? Why do you like it, Jennifer?
No, well, I also love hearing why other people like it because it defends like why it's so timeless. And
Mm,
like when it comes to the themes and the character development, there's the themes of like change versus fate.
yes.
Can people truly change or are they destined to repeat patterns? And throughout the movie, it's specifically with the arc of George McFly, it's kind of shown that he can change but with the right push, and like
Mm,
Marty being in the past was kind of that point to kind of push him to be a bit more brave and to kind
mm,
of overcome his own insecurities. And then Marty, like you said, he gives this persona like he's cool and bad and flawless, but he's in a way a very cool reactive hero in this movie because his journey is less about fixing himself and more about helping others rise, like
mm,
helping George McFly, you know, and like try to become more confident.
mm,
And like as a result, the like interactions that he has with his own parents then come full circle to impact his own future later. So I think it is kind of a cool hero story, like in a way,
mm.
with Marty, and it's super fun. I obviously love the practical effects, and the
Yes.
DeLorean will always be cool. It
Yes.
will never not be cool, no matter what decade. I love the like period set design of the
Yes.
1950s. This little cute like classic 1950s era town, and the 80s vibes from quote the present day, which now it looks very retro.
Mm.
um and so since this is one of your top 5 movies, what's like one of your most memorable scenes from it?
What is one of my most memorable scenes? I guess. I've never been asked. You would think I would have thought about this. You would think that I'd be, oh, it's this. But because I watch it every year, and I'm just like, and just take it all in for the 90 minutes, 2 hours that it goes for. Obviously, Doc on the clock tower.
Oh
Trying to,
yeah. Hmm.
and that's so effective. Like that, like this movie, 40 years later, that scene is still so effective. And I'll tell you how. I've told this story on a recent episode. Um, my wife and I watch it every year. We know this film inside and out. Every single time Doc slips while trying to hook it up, my wife gasps in fear. Like, it still catches her every time. She's seen the film about 50 times and still it catches her off guard.
I
Uh,
know, it's still funny. Like
mm,
even whenever I rewatch it, the jokes are still
mm.
so funny. It's just so great.
I would also say the intro to Marty, like the whole kind of opening montage, like, I'm late for school. And then he gets on the skateboard and we've got Huey Lewis and he's tagging the car and then he does the audition and he plays the guitar solo and Huey Lewis is in the judging panel. Um, that's a really kind of memorable scene for me as well. But probably it's less a scene and more an act. And that's the Under the Sea dance. Like, that to
Oh
me
yeah.
is
Hmm.
so like that is everything you expect from a time travel movie. And I think this is where it begins. It's the whole like, we got 30 minutes to wrap everything up. What's that? The music that's going to make the fall in love isn't working. The guy's broken his hand. What's that? The guy who we thought we thwarted is now attacking my mother. Oh, what's that? The DeLorean isn't working. Like, everything is coming down to a time crunch. I think that's quintessential time travel movie stuff. I think it began with Back to the Future, and that whole under the sea dance sequence, like, to me, is just
Hmm.
perfect.
Yes, I'd say my most memorable scene is whenever Marty goes back to the 1950s, it's the skateboard chase scene.
Yes.
It's my favorite scene because it captures everything that I love about Marty, because he's resourceful and rebellious, and he's totally unbothered while inventing skateboarding on the spot.
Yeah.
With everybody watching, and he's outsmarting the bullies in pure style. I mean, I love any moment where the underdog outsmarts the bully.
Yeah.
So that's like my favorite scene. But yeah, absolutely love Back to the Future. It's my favorite 80s movie, and definitely top 5 of all time. But yeah, I'll move on to my like next ones. My next ones are maybe not as conventional as the cinephile. So like Back to the Future, that's kind of by the cinephiles. Like, yeah, we all agree.
Everyone loves
Okay.
Back to the Future.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Okay, so this one still a great movie, but the reason why it's one of my personal favorites is because it means a lot to me, and that is Disney's Mulan from 1998.
Yes. My favorite Disney princess is Mulan.
Oh my gosh, absolutely love her. And so a bit of a backstory on me. I like I shared maybe at the beginning of this podcast, because I'm getting blurred between whenever we started recording before not.
Reality and podcast reality.
Right, right. I know. Yeah, so I grew up in a small Texas town of only about 2,000 people. And in the population, it's like roughly 80% Hispanic and 20% white. And I am half Chinese. My mom is of Chinese descent. She's Malaysian, actually. My dad is a Caucasian. He's from Texas. They actually met as pen pals back in the 80s.
That's very
And
sweet.
then my mom, I know, it's so sweet. And then my mom immigrated from Malaysia to this tiny town in Texas. So my sister and I are biracial. We're half Chinese, half white. And growing up in a small town that's predominantly Hispanic, a few white, there's like no Asians in town, practically. So we always kind of felt a bit isolated in our experience because we weren't white enough to be totally white. We weren't Asian enough to be totally Asian, and not Hispanic in a predominantly Hispanic community. And not only that, but in the 90s, and really even to this day, but Asians especially were not really represented in media. Like very little did you ever see an Asian lead, Asian protagonists, and like Asian stories or anything like that in pop culture, American media, at least.
It seems like it was Jackie Chan, and that was about it.
Right. Yeah. And you know what though? Like progress has been made. I mean, a few weeks ago, K-pop Demon Hunters came out on Netflix, and it's all the rage. And we've had these very popular like Asian stories come in film, like Crazy Rich Asians and Parasite. And I think, especially with international streaming, people are able to more easily get exposed to like international films. Like Squid Games is a huge Korean show. Like, so I think like now in 2025, Asian media is like cool.
Yeah.
It's almost got this like cool chic factor to it.
Oh,
but
it's
whenever
been cool
I was,
for ages. The thing that annoyed me about Squid
it's
Game,
been cool this whole
Yeah,
time. But
absolutely.
I feel like
just us boring white people are finally getting it. Like
that. Yes, maybe that's what it is. Like
when Squid
it's
Game
finally
came
being
out, I was
understood
like,
as being cool.
yeah, everyone lost their mind over Squid Game. I was like, this is great. If you look at any film from South Korea from the last 20 years, you're going to find it's great. Like, I'm glad you're all
Right.
seeing Squid Game. Like, I'm glad you've seen that. But like, like Park Chan-wook's been doing films for 20, 30 years, and they're all brilliant. Like, go and check out that. Like, you got Old Boy and
Right.
Bittersweet Life, and oh my God, there's so much out there. So,
Right.
I
But,
agree
yeah.
with you. I 100% agree with you. Like, international media is incredible. It's just, if anything else, you're seeing it from a different perspective. That's why I like international horror so much, because I know what scares white people, like ghosts. Do you know what I mean? But what I like seeing is like when it comes to Asian cinema, there's this almost like folktale mythology. It's not just spirits and ghosts.
Mhm.
There's this deep, rich history and tapestry that these stories they've been telling for millennia. Or like if you go to
Mhm.
Europe, it's again like it's almost like fairy tales, and again like there's a little bit of folklore and stuff. So I'm always fascinated by the point of view and perspective of international audiences and international filmmakers because I know what scares me. It's being alone with my thoughts. So like, I want to see like what scares people around the world. So sorry, I did kind of trample you there a bit, but I'm in 100% agreement. Like my biggest pet peeve with cinema or audiences, I suppose, is people who are like, I don't want to watch that because it's in black and white. I don't want to watch that because it's got subtitles.
Right.
And I'm like, dude, like if you don't want to enjoy things, like that's fine, but just be aware you're cutting yourself off from about 90% of all things amazing. So,
I
uh,
know there's so much out there if you're willing to get a little bit out of your comfort zone. But yeah, so I'm glad that you acknowledge as well. Like, I mean, Asian media has made massive progress,
mm,
especially in pop culture in the last like 30 years. But whenever I was growing up, I very little did see like an Asian lead
mm,
or they were always side characters, and not only that, they were like stereotyped
yeah,
in a lot of ways. So one thing I really loved about Mulan is, obviously as a little girl, growing up in the age of princesses, you've
mm,
got like Cinderella and Ariel and Belle, or Aurora. These are like white characters. And Mulan was this first like female Disney protagonist lead that she's not a quote princess,
mm,
but man, she's like the most bad A one of all of them.
yeah. Oh, so
So
good.
yeah, so Mulan, 1998. It's directed by Tony Bancroft and Barry Cook. The main protagonist is Fa Mulan, who's voiced by Ming Na Wen, and then Leah Salonga does her singing voice. And then the main antagonist is Shan Yu. He's the terrifying Hun leader. And then our key side characters are the cute dragon Mushu, voiced by Eddie Murphy, and then Li Shang, the honorable army captain who trains and unknowingly befriends Mulan in disguise, voiced by B.D. Wong, and then his singing voice is done by Donny Osmond. Um, so just really great characters here. So when it comes to just to kind of like the story beats of this, we are introduced to the world of ancient China where gender roles define honor and identity. Mulan is clumsy, clever, and clearly doesn't fit in the mold of the perfect bride. So after her ailing father is conscripted to war, and he's old at this point, so he's
Mm,
like gonna die. Mulan disguises herself as a man and takes his place, setting off a journey to prove her worth while risking everything. So it's in this setup that we are introduced to her as they're trying to force her to be with all the white makeup like a certain way, and she's kind of pushing against that. Um, and it's this film is also it balances these dark and mature themes for a Disney film while
mm,
also inserting that lighthearted comedy, from Eddie Murphy's
mm,
character and the little cricket and things like that to make it a little more lighthearted. But I would say out of many Disney films, this explores some really deep things,
mm,
especially like related to like warfare and death and things like that, because
yeah.
she's taking her father's place. There's this cool scene, she like cuts off her hair and her hair falls to the ground and she ties it up. And before that, she sings the song Reflection. I
Mm,
absolutely love Reflection. She's kind of trying to find out, like when am I going to be able to show on the outside who I am on the inside? And then, she like goes off to join the army in her father's place,
mm,
which is so brave.
yeah.
Like, who does that? So anyway, we get into Act Two. She struggles to adapt in the army. I mean, it's tough. she's secretly a woman among all these men, and so she faces isolation, but through grit and determination, intelligence, not brute strength, she becomes the first to succeed in training, and she earns respect from her comrades and plays a critical role in saving her battalion during a Hun ambush. Um, so like during this act, just a lot of fun, like cool stuff happens. We get, I think, one of Disney's top three songs of all time, which is "I Will Make a Man Out of You."
Yes.
Like, absolutely love that song. And
I
I'm
have a video on my phone from when my daughter was maybe 1, and I showed her that song for the first time because Mulan is my wife's favorite Disney character and favorite Disney movie. It's my favorite Disney.
oh,
Uh,
she
d-
has good taste.
yeah,
Okay.
and my wife introduced me to Mulan. I didn't watch it as a kid, and she introduced me to it, and it is now my
Hmm.
favorite Disney film as well. And I've got a video on my phone of my daughter singing that song for the first time, and she's just like fixated. She's like like just obsessed with the
It's
song.
so fun. And it's like, it's just got this little tongue in cheek nature to it. And I love, there's a line in it whenever she asks, like, what about a girl who's intelligent and always
Yeah,
speaks
what
her
about a
mind? And
girl
they're
who's got
like,
a brain?
nah.
Nah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, what about a girl that's got a brain who
Yeah.
always speaks her mind? Nah.
Yeah, it's
It's
so
just so
good.
funny.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm like, maybe a line like that wouldn't age well by modern like audiences, but this movie does explore like the gender bias,
Mm,
for sure. And I do love, and one of my main gripes with the recent live action Mulan
mm.
is in the story, they actually, and spoilers if you haven't seen the live action Mulan, but you're listening to a podcast where we're talking about the original Mulan.
Mm,
In the live action, she has like this power called chi that makes
mm,
her just magically good at fighting. So
mm.
it stripped Mulan, it stripped away what made her special in the first film, which is she worked hard to
Yeah.
earn where she, got the
I'm
respect and the skills.
I'm
And
so
that's
glad
something that bothered me from the live action film is they just made it to where, oh, she just has this natural magic talent and didn't work for it, like in the original Mulan.
I'm so glad you said that because when the live action Mulan, and I've only seen the live action Mulan once. I've got it on my shelf over here somewhere. I really enjoyed it. I understood the early critiques, like, oh, there's no Mushu, there's no music. But as soon as they told me there were no songs, you just brought it up. I was like, there's no way you're getting away with a Disney film saying, "I'll make a man out of you" to a woman in 2020. Like, there's just no way that's gonna fly. So I really enjoyed it, and everyone who I've spoken to has not liked it. But it's that very much internet beating up on a movie for no reason. There's no one can back up why they don't like it. They just prefer the animated film. You talking about the chi? I hadn't thought about that. Like taking away
Hmm.
everything that did make her special was that she wasn't special. Like she was remarkable.
Yes.
She's remarkably unremarkable and then works hard.
Hmm.
And I'd never thought about it that way. So now that you put that in context, I'm like, okay, that is a legitimately fair complaint about this movie. And now I'm going to have that in my mind when I do get around to rewatching it. But at least I can see that. Like everyone else is like, oh, what's not the animated one? It's like, yeah, like spoiler alert, none of them are. Like all these remakes aren't the original ones. The one thing I did like about it, and I will say in its defense, is that unlike all the other Disney remake adaptations, it is striving to be something different from its original form. So at least it's not like a shot for
Right.
shot re. But now that
Hmm.
you've planted that seed in my head, I can see myself getting frustrated by that when I watch it. So
Right. Yeah. And if you and I have a separate podcast on like a separate episode talking about live action stuff, whatever, I actually appreciate Disney's intent for the innovation with their live
mm,
action movies, like even though sometimes they don't land. But yeah, that was one that was a
mm.
big gripe that I had from the live action one in terms of like the character of Mulan. But
You
something else
know,
that
now
I
that you've planted
really
the seed for that show, we're going to
right,
have to do
I
that
know.
podcast. So we'll pin it and we'll come back and do that one later. I'm so sorry. I keep
Right,
stepping on you.
right.
Uh,
Oh yes, yeah, that'd be fun. But and another thing that I really love about Mulan's character, going back to just showing how she's able to adapt in the army through her intelligence and through
Mm.
her own resourcefulness. So there's a scene there whenever her battalion is about to get attacked, and it's an amazing scene. She's looking up on the top of this snowing hill. It's this wide shot, and just one by one, you see like all of the soldiers start to populate. There's thousands
Mm.
of them, and you know there's no way they're going to be able to survive that. And then she brings out this rocket. She's like, I have an idea. I'm going to shoot the rocket here, and I'm going to cause an avalanche. And
Mm.
and and it's her idea. It's not through her being like the best swordsman or whatever. She's being resourceful. She's
Mm.
outsmarting the enemy. And there's examples of this throughout the whole movie, like her using the medallion things to go up the pole to get the flag. So I just love her as a character. I think just as a female lead, she's so strong and brave and intelligent, and just a character to look up to. And something else that I really love and respect about the movie, going back to its mature themes about warfare and whatnot, is, we have the iconic songs of reflection and make a man out of you, and like these songs are going throughout the first half of the movie, and then all of a sudden her battalion becomes across a ravaged village that's
Mm.
just been burned and killed. I mean, it's obviously not showing anything, but it's like showing a helmet to the side, showing a little ragged doll that
Mm.
was lost. That like, oh, this village just got burned down and everyone died. And the music, they're in the middle of a song, and it
Mm.
just stops in the middle of the song,
Yeah.
and it's so powerful because it's just this abrupt, like, here's the shift in tone. And this is serious. This is a somber moment. And then Mulan is brokenhearted. She sees the doll and everything. And if you notice, that's the last song that's sung in the movie
Mm.
after that. There's no more music after this moment. It's not that kind of movie anymore.
Mm.
And I just think like that's so powerful with like the idea of warfare and loss and what they were fighting for.
Mm.
So anyway, so kind of going into act 3, like after realizing her mission was about proving her own worth, because she's eventually found out after the whole avalanche thing that she's a woman. And of course, they cast her aside despite her bravery. Of course, they do, these patriarchal men in ancient China. So then Mulan returns alone to warn the imperial city of the Huns' final attack. She's trying to warn them, and then with no authority backing her, she uses her smarts and her heart to lead charge. She gathers up her army friends, and they defeat Shan Yu. They save the emperor. They save China. And then Mulan is ultimately honored not for who she pretended to be, but for who she truly is.
Mm.
So it comes full circle. Now she's being honored and recognized. She's not pretending to be a guy. She's recognized, like, you as a woman, Mulan, thank you for your honor and your sacrifice. And I just love that moment. So this movie just has so many great themes of identity and self-worth. Like in the beginning, Mulan starts out unsure of her place in the world, and she at the time in the beginning is pretending to be who others expect her to be, and then at the end she fully embraces who she is and redefines what honor means. And then it also touches on like courage through compassion, and how her compassion is one of her greatest strengths, and her empathy and her intelligence and her willingness to sacrifice is among her greatest strengths as well. So it's just like a powerful story, and I think it's almost so bold. For one, it was ahead of its time, but almost in a way it's almost like, I don't know if Disney would have the guts to make this kind of movie now. Like I don't know
Mm.
if it's too dark in some areas. But anyway, I love Mulan, and once again, kind of going back to me as like a girl born in the mid 90s growing up, it meant a lot to me to see, you know, a female protagonist such as Mulan be so powerful.
I agree. I think it's incredible. It's one of my greatest regrets in terms of my film watching is I didn't watch it as a kid, so I don't get to have that kind
Mhm.
of. Like, I could have seen it in theaters. I probably was asked if I wanted to see it, and I would have said no because I was 7 years old and that was a girl movie. But
Right.
watching it in my 20s when I finally did see that when my wife introduced me to it, I was just blown away, and I'm constantly blown away by it. Like, I'm a big movie crier. I cry a lot in films. And this one, there are a couple of moments that every time I watch it just reduces me to tears. It's just, and not because it's sad. Like, there are definitely sad moments, but it's just so beautiful. Like, it's just such a beautifully told
Mhm.
story. And like, again, like she's not necessarily the hero she was planning to be. She's kind of thrown into this situation where it's either she does it or she lets her father die. So she does it, and then to see her come into her own, and there's a beautiful conversation between her and her father under the cherry blossoms, and like how he talks about like how she's always been who she needs to be to him, or something akin to that, and that destroys me. I'm just like, oh my god, it's so beautiful.
Right,
Um,
I know. And I just think that the animation is gorgeous. It's like
yes.
rooted in Chinese art and architecture. So just the like character framing and the color palettes, like it's also just beautiful. So anyway, I'm glad I got to share my love for Mulan. I don't want to I want to keep moving on because we don't want to turn it into a
Uh,
3 hour
I saw the time. I'm
podcast.
like, but no, like no, I agree. And whilst it's not in my top five of all time, I did do an animated list, and Mulan is heavily cemented in my top five animated
Right,
films. Yeah.
yeah.
So you're two for two with me at the moment, Jenabeth. You've got two films in
Okay.
two of my lists.
Okay.
What you got for number three?
All right. So number three, this one is going to be a cinephile superhero movie,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that is The Dark Knight
Yes.
from 2008, directed by Christopher Nolan. He's one of my favorite directors. Of course, he went on to direct Inception, Interstellar, Oppenheimer. I mean, the like dude's a legend. Our main protagonist is Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, played by Christian Bale. Our main antagonist is the Joker, played by Heath Ledger. May he rest in peace. Like, what an iconic performance in this movie. And some key side characters, we've got Harvey Dent, also Two-Face, played by Aaron Eckhart, Rachel Dawes, played by Maggie Gyllenhaal, and Alfred, played by Michael Caine and Lucius Fox, Morgan Freeman, and then Commissioner Gordon, played by Gary Oldman. So incredible actors, incredible performances in this movie. Um, in terms of like the setup, once again, just so we can kind of like understand the themes of the story. So the city of Gotham is on the edge of reform. Batman has criminals on the run. Harvey Dent is cleaning up the city legally, and Commissioner Gordon is tightening the grip on crime. Enter the Joker, played by Heath Ledger, a chaotic, unpredictable new threat whose goal isn't power or wealth, but pure anarchy. So something that I just love about The Dark Knight, and it's kind of a theme for me, as you'll see in my number one later. I do love an origin story, but I usually always like the like second movie after the origin story
Mm,
has taken place. I love how they're already a hero and they're coming into these new challenges as a hero, and it like explores so many themes, but I think one of my favorite pieces of it is the performance of the Joker from
mm,
Heath Ledger. And one of my favorite scenes is the interrogation room scene between
yes.
Batman and the Joker. Like, it just distills everything about their conflict. It's the brute force versus the chaos, the strategy versus the madness. And like both of their acting, the dialogue, it's just like masterclass. And I just like absolutely love how the Joker is intentionally a a character that you don't understand because
Mm,
he's just all about chaos. He's all about disorder. And one of my favorite lines in the movie is the line that Alfred says whenever he says, "Some men just want to watch the world burn."
mm.
Because I think in a way, it's almost cool that you don't really know the origin of the Joker, how he became to be as crazy as he is. And something else that's interesting about this version of the Joker is his intent isn't to kill people, it's to corrupt people.
Mm,
And that's like his intention with it. And he succeeds in that with corrupting Harvey Dent.
mm,
Um, so I just love like all the themes that it explores with like chaos versus order, and how Batman and Gordon are clinging to the order, but Joker is the embodiment of the disorder, and the moral corruption. So I just think it's all told very like well. And then into Act Two, so as Joker pushes Gotham into chaos, Batman faces an impossible moral dilemma: uphold justice or bend his rules to stop the madness. Dent's fall from hero to villain is the heart of this act. So, yes, like going back to Harvey Dent being what was the White Knight, he's the good guy. Now he has turned into the villain. And then Rachel ends up dying. And that marks a devastating turning point for Bruce Wayne, because it conflicts him emotionally. And then we go on into Act Three, where Joker, as a social experiment, pits two fairies full of citizens against each other to try to prove, that essentially that they are going to like one is going to choose to blow the other up.
mm,
And then Bruce Wayne is still fighting for, but there's still decency in people, there's still righteousness and that human heart in people. So after lots of plot threads and drama, it ends up that Harvey Dent then dies at the end, and then Batman then takes the blame for his crimes so he can preserve this White Knight legacy of Harvey Dent. And as kind of that closeout of the story, he becomes the Dark Knight that the city needs,
mm.
not what it wants. And I was just so I watched this in the theater in 2008, and it was one of the few times like in a superhero story that you did not get to see them walk away with the glory, that
Yeah.
it's like the unsung hero, that even though Bruce Wayne as Batman, although he's a broken character, he's done his best to try to save Gotham. He ends up taking the false fall because the city needs someone to blame for all
Mm,
of this chaos and the crimes. And one of his heroic acts is taking the fall for something that he did not do.
mhm.
And I just thought that that was so powerful because he didn't deserve it,
Yeah.
going back to the end. And then kind of going back to that scene of Gordon's son asking, but what did he do? He didn't do anything wrong. And
Mm,
then explaining he's not whatever the line is, he's not what the city deserves, but what it needs.
yeah.
So I love this movie because, like, in a way, like you could watch it not even thinking that it's a comic book movie. It's
Mm,
so grounded in realism. um and it's one of those movies that even if someone wasn't necessarily into, quote, the superhero genre, like they would most likely still find it compelling,
mm,
because it's definitely like, yes, there's some great action sequences in there, but there's a lot of character study going on here, and a lot of moral corruption, the symbolism of sacrifice, and the music by Hans Zimmer
yes.
absolutely slaps. It's probably my second favorite score
Sorry, I
of
wasn't
his.
expecting slaps. That's so funny.
Oh, it so slaps. Hans Zimmer's score just absolutely slaps in this movie. Yeah, it's one of my favorites behind The Lion King. It's
Mhm.
absolutely amazing. And so yeah, I this is one that I will rewatch, and I enjoy it every time. And if I ever meet someone that's kind of like, they tell me, "Oh, I'm not really into superhero movies, but I like maybe action movies or whatever." This would be the one that I'd be like, "I
Mm.
think you might like this." It's not too fantastical, but still has hero elements and stuff. So, what are your thoughts of The Dark Knight, James?
I love The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
I saw it in theaters as well, and I was not quite at the height of my snobbery yet. But I was definitely pretentious about certain things. And I went in coming off Batman Begins, which I love. I still think of the three films, Batman Begins captures the essence of what Batman is supposed to be through the comics the best. You know, there's that sequence
Mhm.
down by the docks where he's just like dropping down and picking up thugs and they're throwing batarangs and stuff. So I had a not a chip on my shoulder, but I definitely had expectations, and I wasn't part of the whole anti Heath Ledger crew because that was a big thing. Like for people who weren't there for it, people were furious that Heath Ledger was. You know, the
Mhm.
10 things I hate about you guy is going to be the Joker. So I didn't need to be convinced, but I also was like, well, how do you top the first one? And I just sat there in awe, like just like I just talked about this. I've talked about the Dark Knight about 3 times in the last week on podcast, which is very exciting for me.
Oh, wow. I
And
mean, I guess it proves that it's just so loved by so many
mm,
people.
but to
Yeah.
start a movie called The Dark Knight, the
Mhm.
daylight shot with the character that's not the Dark
Mhm.
Knight, like it really sets the tone. Like there's a sense of unease, and it sets this tone that this film is not going to be what you expect it's going to be. And the biggest bait and switch in this film, I just talked about this with someone else, is the death of spoilers for a 17-year-old movie. Jeez, the movie's 17 years old. Oh my god, this
I
movie's almost this
know.
movie can drive. Um,
Ah.
in Australia, you'd be able to drink soon. But the death of Rachel Dawes. Like that
Mhm.
is the
Shocking.
biggest bait and switch, and that is the inciting incident for everything in that film. Like, because Bruce is going to get there on time. Batman, like,
Mhm.
Bruce is not Spider Man. Peter Parker is destined to fail. That is the curse of Peter Parker. But Bruce will get there on time, and he's going to save
Mhm.
everyone. And when he walks through those doors, and it's Harvey Dent, I gasped, and it might have been the first time I gasped in the theaters. Now I gasp all the time, and so it's lost its magic. But I gasped, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Like I was for sure certain that it was going to be Rachel saved, and it's only because of her death that Harvey is able to descend into the madness and become Two Face. It's only because of her death that Bruce is able to do what he needs to do. If she lives, he can't make that sacrifice. Like, because he's ready
Mhm.
to hang up the cowl. He's like, Harvey's going to take over. The city doesn't need me anymore. We're going to live together and be happily ever after. And even with the Joker, like so unpredictable. I remember sitting there, and the one thing I got annoyed about in the movie is when he talked about how he got his scars, and I was like, oh, but the Joker's origin shouldn't be told. And then like 10 minutes later, he tells a very different origin. I was like, oh,
Right.
I
Uh-huh.
should have just watched the movie. How dare I make a judgment so early? And like just that constant unpredictable nature of it. And even now, like,
Yes.
I've seen this movie. I don't know how many times, Jenabeth. I've watched this movie so many times. And I've talked about it 3 times this week, and I'm now like, well, I guess it's time to watch it again because it's been a minute since I've watched it, and I'm still surprised by it. And I know this flick inside and out. I'm still surprised by it. I agree with you. I think like it transcends the genre. And comic book isn't really a genre, but like people are kind of pigeonholing all comic book films into the same corner.
Mhm.
And I think this breaks the mold for that. And I don't think a film has done that with the genre since. I think Logan gets close. Logan's a really good comic book movie. I think,
Yeah.
but I couldn't recommend Logan to everyone. I could recommend The Dark Knight to anyone.
Yeah.
And you might go in there with your arms crossed and be like, well, I don't like capes and I don't like superheroes. But I think you come out and you're like, yeah, but it was pretty good. Like it was a pretty good movie.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I think it's fantastic. And I think, it's a testament to the work of the people involved that it is the film that all other adaptations of the character and all universe relaunches are based on. Like you look at the
Mhm.
DCEU, and whilst it had its stumbling blocks, I like a majority of those films. But every time Batman shows up, it's not even Christian Bale they're comparing it to. They're just comparing it to the Dark Knight. Is it as good as the Dark Knight? When Matt Reeves did the Batman, they weren't talking about Ben Affleck. They were talking about The Dark Knight. And now that we've got this new version, we haven't got a Batman yet, as far as I know. That maybe in Superman we get a teaser. But this Batman is coming. They will inevitably compare it to The Dark Knight. Like
Right.
like it is now the yardstick for which all versions of this character are measured, and rightfully so. It's
Right. I
just
agree.
yeah, it's wonderfully entertaining. Like even my wife, like, when I went again, I've name dropped her a lot. Well, not name dropped, but I've referenced her a lot. We went and saw that together, and when we first met, she wasn't really into comic book movies. Like she wasn't really into superheroes. Um, and we walked out of The Dark Knight, and she was like, "Yeah." And she's a drama teacher, and she uses The Dark Knight for drama class sometimes. Yeah.
Wow, that's so neat. I mean, there's some cool drama
Mm,
like teaching elements. It's a great
mhm.
example for a lot of things. But
Uh,
I'm glad you like that film as well.
it
I
would have
want to
been
keep
shocking
moving
if I was
on.
like, "Actually, Jenabeth, this is hot garbage." Yeah.
I know. What? I know. Okay, so my next pick is going to be what I think is a criminally underrated 1990s
Oh,
movie
I love
that
this
I
already.
think out of my picks maybe is the less I guess pop culture popular. And that is The Mask of Zorro from 1998.
Mm. Yes, 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 yes. Okay, I'm on board with this. Yes.
I was about to ask. I was like, James, have you seen this movie? Because there are some
Yes.
people that haven't. But yes, growing up, once again, as clearly with the theming of this, clearly I'm a sucker for hero
Mm.
stories. My family had this movie on DVD. I watched it on repeat. So for to kind of set background for this movie, The Mask of Zorro. It's directed by Martin Campbell. Before this, he had directed Goldeneye, the James
Is
Bond
it
film.
really? I had
From
no idea.
1995.
Oh wow. Well, he's got an impressive. Yeah, sorry, I won't interrupt. I didn't know he
Yeah,
directed this
yeah,
one. Yeah.
yeah. And then he went on to direct my favorite Bond movie, which is
Yes.
Casino Royale in
Yes.
2006. So, anyways, I was watching a video earlier. Apparently, Spielberg was supposed to direct this, but due to all sorts of stuff, it didn't work out. At the end of the day, we still got an amazing movie, which we'll get into. But the main protagonists are Don Diego de la Vega. So he's playing an older version of Zorro, and that is played by Anthony Hopkins. So he is essentially the retired vigilante. And then there's Alejandro Murrieta, the modern day or like a present day Zorro in the movie, played by Antonio Banderas. This is kind of like
Mm.
his bigger breakout role. He had some roles before this, but this was like his big role.
Mm.
And then our main antagonist is Don Rafael Montero, played by Stuart Wilson. He is a manipulative Spanish governor that's responsible for Diego's imprisonment, who's that is played by Anthony Hopkins, and killing his wife, well, unintentionally, but kills his wife. And then side characters, we have Elena Montero, played by Catherine Zeta-Jones. She looks stunning in this movie. This was also one of her breakout roles. And she plays Diego's long lost daughter that was raised by his enemy, Don Rafael Montero. So, anyways, it's interesting how all the characters in this movie kind of have a connection to each other through the past
Mm.
and in the present. So, in terms of the narrative and the structure, this takes place in 1820s California, and Don Diego de la Vega is unmasked, as Zorro and imprisoned by the corrupt governor Don Rafael Montero, and he steals his infant daughter Elena and raises her as his own. Meanwhile, two young brothers, Alejandro and Joaquin Murrieta, encounter Zorro. So a young Alejandro has an interaction with Anthony Hopkins Zorro, and they're inspired by his heroism. So this movie is just this period piece, great looking, real life sets, action adventure movie. I forget the name, swashbuckler movies.
Mm.
This is one of the the best swashbuckler movies with the sword fighting, and the humor and stuff in it. I think most of it was all filmed in Mexico, and they built like real life sets. The costumes look impeccable, and it kicks off with action, but it also just has some really interesting characters here. So then going into Act Two, 20 years later, a vengeful Alejandro teams up with the now aged Don Diego, who trains him to become the next Zorro. And so, as Alejandro infiltrates Montero's circle, he falls for Elena, unaware that she is Diego's daughter. And then Alejandro discovers Montero's plan to buy California using stolen gold mined from slave labor. And then, oh, I forgot to mention Captain Love, who's also a villain in this movie. He is Montero's ruthless right hand man that ended up killing Alejandro's brother in the beginning of the film. So essentially, this movie is a revenge story for both of our protagonists. So we have Anthony Hopkins, who's seeking revenge over for Don Rafael Montero for taking his daughter and like being a accomplice in killing his wife. He's seeking revenge, but then also Alejandro Murrieta, played by Antonio Banderas, is also seeking revenge on Captain Love, who killed his brother. So we're seeing like a revenge arc kind of for both of them, and they're kind of tag teaming with this. But at the same time, they also have this mission of wanting to liberate California. I know that there's historical inaccuracies in this movie. There's things that's like, yeah, that did not happen in real history. We let it go because we're just here for the entertainment. But to kind of like land the plane with it a bit more, it's just a fun like action adventure movie that has the romance, it has the sword fighting, it has the like mentorship relationship between Anthony Hopkins and Antonio Banderas's characters. I'd say the main thing that hasn't aged that well is there's like a sword fighting scene
I know what you're
between
talking about.
Antonio Banderas and like Catherine Zeta-Jones. They're essentially trying to cut each other's clothes off.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. So maybe that hasn't aged that well for modern day feminist purposes.
Yeah.
But honestly, like even if you were to watch this movie today, because of the on location sets, the actual stunts, the actual production design of it all, like there's very little CGI in this movie, if not at all. Like it's so minimal. It just looks like it could have been made like last year.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's still so lighthearted. Um, so I just love the overall story of it, just this fun adventure story and this hero story. And so in Act Three, you know, Zorro returns with flair, and the final set piece takes place at the gold mine where both of our leads are then fighting their main revenge and antagonist. So there's like all, you know, all this heated tension with the sword fighting, and then at the end they end up exploding the gold mine, but just in time they end up saving everybody. But the explosion is so cool. I think they had to do it 3 times because the like because it didn't work the first two correctly. Anyway, there's like all these different angles of the explosion, and it looks so real. And it's so fun. And so anyway, I just love just the overall entertainment value of this movie. There's themes of like legacy and mentorship, like a torch passing on with that. There's the theme of the revenge and justice, because ironically in the beginning Alejandro begins his journey seeking revenge, but ultimately at the end chooses to fight for justice. And then of course I'm a sucker for a romance in an
Mm.
action movie if it's well done.
Mm.
So anyway, it's my favorite romantic action adventure swashbuckler movie.
Mm.
And I think it's criminally underrated because
Mm.
out of 1990s action movies, it's not really in the conversation a lot, but it's not near as campy as a lot of them, and it's just still holds up whole well. So well, and still is entertaining to this day. Maybe that part with Elena hasn't aged well with getting her top cut, but other than that, it's still super fun.
It's a fun. I haven't. Like, I'm so glad you brought up. I haven't thought about this movie in so long. The last time I would have watched it would have been on cable, probably
Hmm.
in the late '90s, early 2000s, and I don't even know if it's available here in Australia at the moment. But boy, did I enjoy that flick! Like, I'm so glad you did what you've been doing by going through the plot points and stuff like that because I haven't seen it in so long, but it's great. Like, this is peak Antonio Banderas. He's coming off Desperado, which
Hmm.
he like. Look, '90s Antonio Banderas, maybe the coolest and hunkiest guy on the planet. Um,
Oh, he's so cool. And then he went on to kind of do somewhat of a version of Zorro with the voicing of the Puss in Boots character
mm,
in Shrek. And so,
that's right, he
anyways,
did. Yeah.
it was just kind of fun. Like, it was a fun nod to his
Mm.
performance as Zorro and getting to then voice Puss in Boots.
It is kind of insane because they did two. I remember they did the Legend of Zorro as well.
Right.
It's insane they haven't come back to Zorro. Like,
I agree. I think out of so many reboots, with the amount of Spider-Man and Jurassic Park reboots
mm.
that we've gotten, I'm just kind of like, you know what? I would be open for a Zorro reboot.
And I'm not sure whether I'm not sure of Zorro's heritage. So when I start shouting out casting, I'm not trying to be like, I'm not saying that certain heritages don't matter. But like in a world where we've got your Diego Lunas, you've got your Pedro Pascals, you're telling me we didn't have one hunky Latin guy in the last 20 years who couldn't take over the mantle? Like, we've got so many great Latin actors who could have stepped into the role of Zorro.
Oh yeah, I would love to see a Pedro Pascal Zorro. That'd be cool.
I
Anyways, maybe we'll put it out into the universe here,
Yeah,
Pedro.
I know the internet's getting bored with him, but I'm not. He's coming in Fantastic Four in a couple of weeks, and we were just
I
watching last.
know, yeah.
We haven't finished it yet. We just started watching Gladiator 2 last night, and I didn't even
Oh
know
yeah.
he was in it. And I was like, oh my god, well, there's my dream boat. Like, let's sail away with Pedro. Um, I'm so glad you brought out that movie. I haven't thought about it in forever, and I would argue most people haven't. But boy, does it earn its place! It's such a great flick.
It's
Um,
so entertaining. And
mm,
going back to our earlier point of being rewatchable, it's so
yes,
rewatchable to me. It's so fun every time.
and
So,
it
and the deaths of both of the antagonists, the deaths are some of the best payoffs that I've
mm,
seen in cinema. It's so
yeah.
satisfying.
Yeah. And it paves the way for so many other great films. Like, you've used the word swashbuckling a lot, and it's one of my favorite words. It's not used anywhere near enough. Like, I don't think you get to Pirates of the Caribbean without Zorro.
Hmm.
Like, because you
Yeah.
look at that sword play, and there is a lot of similarities. Not to say that it didn't have other influences. And I'm sure Disney were like, hey, we had a ride, but there's definitely those similarities in those films as well. What a great pick! This is an
Yes,
incredible
I
list,
love.
Jenabeth.
Yeah, well, thank you. Like I said, I'm a sucker for hero movies, and Zorro is just entertaining, kind of from start to finish, with the sword fighting and the choreography and the stunts, the
Mm,
set design, the costumes, the sexy dance scene that him and Catherine Zeta-Jones
yes.
have. Like, it's just a fun time. So, anyways, like I said, out of my list, I feel like it's one of the less watched ones. So if anybody's
Definitely.
listening that hasn't watched it, I encourage you to check it out.
Do it. Absolutely.
But
You're the first person to mention
yes.
it on the podcast as well. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Well, good. All right. Well, going into my last pick, because I know I don't want to still make this a lot. I have 3 hour podcast once again. Um, okay. So my number one movie that whenever I was growing up telling all my girlfriends, they were always like, what? Okay, my number one favorite movie of all time is Spider-Man 2 from 2004.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. And it's so funny because growing up, I feel, like once again, like born in the mid 90s, I feel like a common answer for like, what's your favorite movie? And there's the girlfriends that'd be like, oh, I love A Walk to Remember or Legally Blonde
Mm.
or 10 Things I Hate About You. And those movies are great.
Yeah.
But I was always like, but I love Spider-Man too.
Yeah.
like, like going back to like my superhero nerdiness, I'm not like a comic book person, but I once again I just love like superheroes. But I absolutely adore the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy.
Mhm.
So kind of setting the stage for Spider-Man 2. Like I said, directed by Sam Raimi. Before this, he had directed the Evil Dead trilogy, and of course, he directed the original Spider-Man from
Mhm.
2002. He went on to direct Drag Me to Hell and Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Our main protagonist clearly is Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man, played by Tobey Maguire. Our main antagonist is Dr. Otto Octavius, played by the brilliant Alfred Molina. Key side characters, we got Mary Jane Watson, played by Kirsten Dunst, Harry Osborn, played by James Franco, Aunt May, played by Rosemary Harris, and J. Jonah Jameson, of course, played by the iconic J.K. Simmons. So starting into like the setup for Spider-Man 2. So once again, kind of like with the Dark Knight, we've already gotten the origin story. Now they're actively a hero. They're actively like in their hero shenanigans. So Peter Parker is struggling to balance his double life as himself and Spider-Man. He's failing college, he's broke, he's losing Mary Jane, and then he starts to lose his powers. Meanwhile, the brilliant scientist Otto Octavius is introduced as a mentor figure, building a revolutionary fusion device with dangerous potential. So I love how the movie just kind of sets the stage that kind of like how all of us adults feel in everyday life. He's drowning. He's just drowning and like being Spider-Man, plus being a college student, plus trying to have a job, plus trying to maintain all of my relationships. It's a lot, and I find it very relatable.
We were talking at the
Um,
start of the episode, like it's literally
yes,
we're all living that Peter
yes,
Parker life. Yeah.
yes. And so then in Act Two, after the fusion experiment goes tragically wrong, Octavius becomes the villainous Doc Ock with his 8 mechanical arms, or no, 4. And he is driven by grief and fused with his AI controlled mechanical limbs. So Peter, overwhelmed by his responsibilities and haunted by personal sacrifice, gives up being Spider-Man. As crime rises and MJ prepares to marry someone else, Peter questions what he truly wants in life. Um, so one of my favorite things about Spider-Man 2 is when we look at Spider-Man, the first Spider-Man, the central theme that we walk away of is that theme of responsibility.
Mm.
With great power comes great responsibility. So Peter walks away with like, look, I have these superpowers. I have the ability to save people, and it's my responsibility to do right by what I have the powers to do. But then in Spider-Man 2, we get into the theme of choice.
Mm.
And what Peter's realizing is, in a way, he's been doing his Spider-Man duties, not necessarily out of choice, but because he's feeling like it's an obligation. Like he feels guilted by Uncle Ben's death, and
Yes.
it was like he got sucked into it, and it became such an obligation that he never stopped to think, do I want this? Do I is this worth it? Is it worth it not being with Mary Jane, failing my college classes, being broke, drowning in life? Is it worth it?
Mm.
And as he starts to drown in this, then he starts to lose his powers, and then he makes that decision of, I think I'm going to give this up. And then there's that scene, he kind of has like a fantasy with him and Uncle Ben, and he explains to Uncle Ben like, no, no more.
Mm.
I am Peter Parker, but I'm not Spider-Man. Or
Mm.
I forget the exact line, but he essentially just kind of has that agency of like saying no to going on with this life at Spider-Man. So he throws his suit in the dumpster, and then there's kind of this fun montage of him enjoying life as, like, quote, a free man, of not having his obligations as Spider-Man. And things are looking bright. And I love that song that plays, raindrops are falling on my
Yeah.
head, you know. Um, but then there's just these little moments in there that he's kind of reminded every time of, like, there is something in him that still has a calling to help people,
Mm.
because he comes across these moments of, like, oh, someone's getting mugged, or can I help? And he kind of wrestles with, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. um, there's even a sequence where there's a building fire and he goes in trying to save someone, but he's not doing this as Spider-Man. And then at the end of that sequence, they say, "Oh, someone didn't make it out," and he realizes, like, man, maybe I could have saved that person, had I
Mm.
been Spider-Man. So I just love how Peter's wrestling with his own identity throughout this movie. And so then going into Act Three, oh, and then of course, on top of all this, Mary Jane's now engaged to another man. So heartbreak with that, just whenever he thinks, oh, like, now I can be available, now I can be in a relationship with you. She's like, it's too late, I'm getting married. So, anyways, uh, so then we get that iconic train scene. Well, actually, I'm skipping ahead a lot because I'm trying to keep the time in mind. But
Oh, good. No stress.
essentially, I know. Okay, so, like, Mary Jane gets kidnapped by Doc Ock, and that kind of is the turning point for Peter to then be like, okay, no, I am going to become Spider-Man again. His
Mm.
powers return, and then we end up getting into this cool train sequence with Doc Ock and Spider-Man fighting, swinging through New York, fighting on the train. That is hands down one of my favorite action sequences in
Mm.
any superhero movie. I think
Yes.
it's so well done. I absolutely love the like part whenever Peter's mask catches on fire a bit, and he has to take it off, and that is the moment where his mask is off, and
Mm.
he's vulnerable. He stops the train from falling over the edge, but he absorbs so much strength that he passes out, and
Mhm.
then the citizens of the train then pick him up and carry him to the back. And then there's a moment that they're just staring down at him, and then there's a guy that's like, he's just a kid.
Mm.
And it's so funny because at the time when I'm watching this as a kid, I think to myself, Peter Parker is a grown man, but then, like, you and me, we're in our 30s, and you're like, Peter Parker's just a kid.
Yeah.
He's just a kid. And I think it's powerful because it shows, like, also how a person can make such a difference no matter how old they are.
Mm.
um and and then I love how the citizens on the plane, on the train, they're almost like New York City as a character, saying,
Mm.
like, Peter, or, well, they don't know his name, but they're like, we are going to keep your identity a secret, it's okay, thank you for all that you do. And then eventually Peter then goes to find Doc Ock, who is building a sun that's
Yeah.
essentially going to demolish the world and suck New York City into who knows what. So, anyway, with MJ's life at stake because she was kidnapped and the city in peril, Peter reclaims his powers and confronts Doc Ock, appealing to his humanity rather than defeating him through force. So he reminds him, like, the Doc Ock that I knew wouldn't be doing this. You would be doing this for good, because it was the
Mm.
AI that was kind of tripping up Doc Ock's mind. So he was able to relate to him in a relational kind of way rather than just through force. And then Doc Ock ends up sacrificing himself, and Peter and Doc Ock, I guess, they save the city. But then MJ is still about to marry this guy. And this is also the first time that MJ realizes that Peter is Spider-Man, because it's revealed to her in like the final act that he's actually Spider-Man. And then of course he says like, "Oh, I didn't tell you because of all of the dangers. If anybody finds out who I am and who you are, then you will be in danger too." So Mary Jane goes off to get married, but then she's like thinking, wait, I don't want this. Like,
Mm.
I want to be with Peter. And then there's the scene she's like running through
Yeah.
Central Park in her wedding dress. And then Peter Parker is in his little crummy apartment staring out the window. And there she is in the back. And then he turns around and he's like, "Oh, I thought you like were getting married." And she says something along the lines of like, "I know that there will be risks, but I want to take them with you. Like, this
Mm.
is my choice to be with you." And I love how that theme of choice comes full
Mm.
circle, because Peter um, decides in the movie to become Spider-Man again, not out of obligation, but because of his own choice. And one of my favorite like monologues in all of cinema is the monologue that Aunt May tells to Peter during the lull time whenever there hasn't been a Spider-Man and the little boy neighbor is wondering where
Yeah.
Spider-Man has been. And she gives a whole monologue, but the last line that I'll read here is she says, "I believe there's a hero in all of us that keeps
Mm.
us honest, it gives us strength. And even though sometimes we have to be steady and give up the thing we want the most, even our dreams." And that line is so powerful to me, because Peter is also realizing like, I'm going to make the choice. I'm going to do the right thing and be Spider-Man, because I know that's my calling and that's who I am, but it may be at the sacrifice of I'm not going to get to be with the woman I love.
Mm.
And but then Mary Jane flips the switch and is like, "But I want to be with you, and that's
Yeah.
my choice as well."
Mm.
And so I just love how they make that decision to kind of be together. And that's just one of my favorite lines in general in a movie that I've also just applied in my own life. Because we've shared earlier during our discussions of being a parent, like whenever you're a parent, you like like I don't know if it's as dramatic as giving up on your dreams, maybe it is, but you make
Yeah.
sacrifices. Like, everybody makes sacrifices in their life, and sometimes doing what's right means that you can't exactly follow your dreams. And even though I'm an advocate for people going after what they want and following their dreams, I also like how there was an honesty in
Mm.
this movie of like, going back to that theme of responsibility, but also having a calling
Yeah.
in Peter's situation, but that he was willing to sacrifice maybe his own selfish desires to do what is right.
Mm.
And how all of us in life can kind of take that same lesson. We often have to sacrifice our own selfish desires to do what's right by our family, our
Mm.
friends, whatever. So, anyways, I just absolutely adore Spider Man 2. There's just so many story beats in there that I think are so compelling. There's the themes of responsibility versus desire, the themes of choice versus identity, and sacrifice and love.
Mm.
And I just love how all of that is packaged into a comic book movie.
Yeah.
So,
I
what are your thoughts, James?
I love Spider-Man 2. It's one like I know like back when Spider-Man 2 came out, there was this whole like the curse of the sequel thing,
Hmm.
like and I don't think I think it was kind of over exaggerated. People were like the second one's never as good as the first one, but there have definitely been examples in time where that's been true. But this one was the first really like this and X-Men 2. People were like, oh my goodness, they can improve on it, and now we're living in the age of the great sequel where a lot of films are doing it.
Hmm.
But this was one of the first ones that did it, and I still remember the day that I went to see Spider-Man 2 because I had arranged to catch up with my friends, and this is back in a time before we all had cell phones. We had to call on the home phone and stuff, like on the phone, the sort of phone line connected to the wall. And so I called my friend, and I was at my mum's place, and I said, "Hey, what time we meet? And we'll go to Spider-Man 2." And it was all of us. It was like 7 or 8 of us in total. And I got there, and they'd all gone in without me. They'd all gone in without me. And I think like they like later on they're like, "Oh, it sounded like you weren't coming." I'm like, "I said I'm definitely going." But anyway, so I kind of went back to my mum's car with my tail between my legs. I'm like, the movie started, they all left without me. So my mum took me to see Spider-Man 2. So I still got to see it opening weekend. But oh, did you freeze? No, you're just
Oh.
very still. I adore it. I think it's brilliant. Everything, like, I can't really improve on the perfection that you've said. Everything
Mhm.
you've said is how I feel about it, and said so eloquently. I love that you mention the unmasking of the train, because to me that is where Peter finds his equilibrium. I feel like that moment when the mask is torn off and he's forced to be both visually both Peter Parker and Spider-Man, that's when he finds that
Oh,
balance. And
James, look at you cooking over here. I've never thought about that. You're right. He's kind of like in tandem. He is Peter Parker and Spider-Man, the embodiment of both personas at the
yeah.
same time. That's a really great analogy. Whoops, my little light thing fell off the room.
Oh, good. That's how good that revelation was. Even the lights in America
I
could handle
know the
it.
lights. Yes.
um, yeah, I think it's fantastic. I think we had such a great villain in Norman Osborn in the first one. It's like, how do you improve on that? He's so menacing, and to go the route of Doc Ock, who is menacing, but it's not because of his physicality; it's because of his mind, and he's so driven. And that train sequence obviously stands out. But I love the bank heist scene as well. I think
Yes, love that one as well.
um, it's just, and I do love that speech as well. That you talk about, Rosemary Harris, who plays Aunt May, that whole sequence in the driveway and the way that it opens, because in a scene previous, Peter confesses to Aunt May that it's his fault that Ben died. Like, it was
Mhm.
through his own
Mhm.
selfishness, and you're talking about like those sacrifices you have to make, through his own selfishness that Ben died. And instead of her being like maternal and forgiving and all that stuff, she reacts in a very human way. Like, what are you talking about? It's your fault that my husband is dead. Like, she kind of scorns him for it a little bit. And then we have that beautiful scene later where she's like, it was very brave of you to say what you did. And, it must have been hard. And I want you to know that even though I was angry, I love you. And then she goes into the whole,
Mhm.
like, there's a hero in all of us. So I love all that. The dialogue is a huge, the dialogue in the first one is great, but it's such a huge step up, and it is a very mature story, and it finds that great balance where this is a story that kids are going to love, because Spider-Man is swinging, and he's got and he's losing his powers. You got Doc Ock, and you've got all these wonderful things going on. But as a parent, or even just as an adult, there's so much more to it than just a couple of guys in costumes having at it. Like, there's so much more going on, and it's so mature. And we talked about before, like the Dark Knight being the blueprint. There's definitely an element of Spider-Man 2 in a lot of modern storytelling as well. Like, it
Oh,
just
for sure.
does so much. And also, and like, we're now in the age of CGI. Like, in the 90s, we started playing with it, but in the 2000s, we're here in full force. And I actually just rewatched the trilogy. And thank you for saying you're a fan of the entire trilogy. You kept Spider-Man 3 in there because some people don't like it. Uh,
Oh, I still, yeah, I love the trilogy.
that was my wife and I's first date movie, Spider-Man 3. So, uh,
Oh, wow.
so I got a special place for that movie. But it's interesting. I just rewatched them, and I noticed, like, in the first one, you don't really notice the CGI because there's not a lot of CGI stuff going on in there, except for like the
Mhm.
the Thanksgiving Day parade or whatever it is. There's not too much CGI stuff. In the second one,
Right.
they really kick it up a notch. It's like we're now fighting on trains. Like, for the first one, Spider-Man's not too airborne. He does a couple of swings here and there, but he's mostly on the ground with this fighting. In the second one, we're really taking it to that next level. He's climbing up the side of buildings. There's a great sequence where,
Mhm.
Aunt May is being held by Doc Ock, and he drops her and he has to go down and save her. And then the third one, for all its flaws or perceived flaws, because I actually think it's a pretty great flick,
Right.
Spider-Man is almost entirely airborne in that third movie. So yes, that CGI is noticeable, but they're doing so much more with it to give you, like, you don't get to Andrew Garfield, and you certainly don't get to Tom Holland Spider-Man without the groundwork laid by this trilogy. And
Right.
they had to
Mhm.
walk not run, or walk not swing, as it were. Like, it took a while to get to that airborne web slinging Spider-Man, but we do get there. And 2 is so instrumental in all of that kind of technology. But still great practical effects. All of the arms are practical.
Amazing. Everything
Yeah.
looks so good, all the
Yeah.
practical effects. And yeah, I was like thinking as I was breezing through, there's so many things. So with all five of these movies, you could dedicate an episode for each one just to
100%.
like talk
Yeah.
about, like hone in on like a scene by scene breakdown kind of thing. So I know I was like really high level, like breezing through
Mm,
plot points so that way people could kind of understand the context of why the story was so compelling to me. But yeah, there's just so many elements of Spider-Man 2 that I just adore, just from
mm,
the character development to the dialogue, the little soft moments
mm,
aside from the action. And when the action does hit, it's choreographed so well.
mm,
So, anyways, I just really love it. It's such a nice character driven story. And I love the themes that it explores. And I still kind of like apply it to my own life, you
mm.
know? So, anyways, I hope that everyone enjoyed my hero picks because those are my favorite kind of stories.
It's a
So,
it's a great list. And we talked about the music of The Dark Knight and Back to the Future, but I would say Spider-Man 2 also great score. That hero score.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Danny Elfman's Spider-Man score, I think, and maybe this is a hot take for people, but because I adore the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, I think it's the best superhero theme because I
It's
just feel
definitely up
like
there.
um and specifically whenever it's used in the movie, the like themes are used with Doc Ock. Like he
Mm,
has his own theme, and then Spider-Man has his theme when he's swinging, and
mm,
then when he's staying still and thinking. So
mm,
if you listen to the score by itself, it's almost like you can visualize what's going on in the
mm.
movie
Yeah.
because it's not just an atmospheric score. It's not just a, oh, that's cool to play in the credits. It's like the music is integral to the story. And it
Yes.
just captures the embodiment of Peter Parker and Spider-Man, like knowing which persona the music is correlated with. I just absolutely love Danny Elfman's score in Spider-Man. So it's amazing.
Yeah, it's such a departure from what he normally does. Because when I think of Danny Elfman, I think of like manic, like kind of almost like xylophone keyboards. So like I think of Beetlejuice and like all the Tim Burton stuff. But then this, like even I would say his Batman score is more in line with the stuff I'm used to hearing because it is very operatic and dramatic and very kind of crazy. Whereas this has so much nuance to it, and it's kind of
Hmm.
all those horns, like the horn, like when they come in. Oh my god,
Yes,
I
it's
could talk about
so
that. It's so
cinematic.
good. um,
I know. Oh, and then I think at like this fall, Spider-Man 2 is getting a re-release in
oh,
theaters.
amazing.
I'm going because I never saw it in theaters. It's my
Oh my
favorite
goodness,
movie of all time. I've never
that's
seen it
so
in a
great. You
theater.
have
I've
to
only
do it.
seen it on like a little TV screen. So I'll definitely probably be posting like a TikTok and Instagram video about that.
Oh man, you got to do it. It's so good. Like the closest I've got is I've got. I think I was telling you before. I've turned my garage into a theater, so there's my screen just there.
Oh my gosh,
So
that's
I
amazing.
so I did do Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3 in here earlier this year, but um, yeah, if they re-release it down here, I'll definitely go and see it again because it's masterful. Um,
Hmm.
Jenabeth, you've been fantastic. As expected, I'm not shocked at all by how amazing you've been on this show. Didn't expect you to have as many notes, but oh my goodness, like how great has that been? Before we get out of here, I do like to do a bit of a rapid fire question round just about your movie watching habits, and then we'll plug all your socials and stuff, and I'll let you go. I'll release you from the hostage situation that is this podcast. Um,
That sounds good. So whenever I mean, I'm assuming my dog Zoe is barking. Maybe you could edit this part. I'm gonna
oh,
go see what's
I
going
can
on
hit
with
pause.
her.
Give me a sec. So yeah, just a rapid fire round. Hopefully, I say rapid fire. Sometimes it goes a bit long, but just about your movie watching habits. And then, as I said, we'll get out of here. So, Jenabeth, first of all, what was the last movie you watched?
Oh, that is Superman by James Gunn
Oh my god,
in theaters right now,
I
and I
am.
think you will like it, James.
I'm 10
It's
hours away at the
yes,
time of recording. I'm 10 hours away. I have a family
yes,
commitment today, and I am excited to see my family, but I am probably more excited to see Superman. So I can't
yes.
wait.
I enjoyed it. Really good.
Excellent. We've talked about before. I was saying I haven't seen Singing in the Rain. I wanted to know: is there a movie on your watch list that you still haven't seen? What's that one movie you should have seen? We've all got one, but you haven't got around to it yet.
Oh my goodness, I have so many, but one of them is The Godfather. I have not seen The Godfather, and
Mm.
it's been on my watch list for a long time, but maybe I'll get around to it one of these days.
It's a long flick, and if you've got kids like we both do, finding time to watch a 3-hour movie is tough.
Yep.
I watch
Mhm.
movies in installments now. I very rarely get to sit down and watch them from start
I
to
like
end.
that. It's like I'll do an hour here and then an hour at this time.
That's
Yeah.
pretty much it. Yeah, exactly. Um, I confessed before that I'm a big movie crier. Do you like to cry during movies, Jenabeth, or you?
I typically am not that emotional in
Oh,
movies.
interesting. There
Yeah,
we go.
yeah.
I don't cry in real life. It's not because I'm tough. It's because I'm broken. But I do
I
cry.
like how you're sensitive and you have empathy, though.
Yeah, yeah. So if I want to cry, I'm like, all right, which one hit me hard last time? That's how I'm gonna. I'll schedule my cry in for this week. So I've actually got the big sick waiting to go because I know that'll make me cry. So my cry will be this week, I think. Um, is there an actor or an actress that you like to follow? Doesn't matter what they're in. Their name is on it. You're gonna go check it out.
Not necessarily. I have actors that I'm like a big fan of. Like I love Tom Hanks, Andrew Garfield,
Mm,
Pedro Pascal, but I'm not one just to only watch things for an actor. I
mm,
think, back in the 90s, with the term A-list, that was kind of
yes.
the era where if an actor's name was tied to a movie, that would determine the success of it. But I think
Mm,
now, with just the amount of saturation of media that we have, I'm a lot more selective of the movies that I watch, mainly to know, like, is this well written? Is the story good? So I'm often not one to watch a movie just because a certain actor is in it.
mm.
I watch it because, maybe from the film crowd, if I hear it's a compelling story and well crafted.
That's a really good point. Like, we don't really have movie stars anymore. Like, I think maybe Tom Cruise is the last one. Like, he's
Right.
from that
Hmm.
era. But, like, I'm now at an age where I'll go to a movie or I'll go online and people are talking about these huge stars and I've never heard of them. Like I said before, I was watching Gladiator 2 last night. That's the first time I've seen Paul Mescal. I've heard his name forever. For like the last 6 to 12 months, everyone's talking about it. I haven't seen anything with him in it, and now I've seen him.
Hmm.
The same was, very popular online right now. Sydney Sweeney. Heard her name a bunch. One day just started popping up. I'd never seen anything in her, and now I kind of know who she is. But until last
Hmm.
January, I had no idea what a Sydney Sweeney was.
Right.
Yeah, it's getting it's so quick now. Like it's almost like it's this hyper saturation of new talent. I can't keep up. Um, we don't want to be negative. Clearly, it's a very positive show. We're very positive people. But what's the worst film you've ever seen?
Um, I will have recency bias for this one. I recently watched Jaws the Revenge. It's the
Okay.
fourth Jaws movie. It was pretty terrible. And I actually did it for another movie podcast that I was on because they were doing like a Jaws rewatch. And I was on the episode talking
Mm,
about Jaws the Revenge. And I had never seen it up until I was asked to be a part of the podcast. And so I was like, I heard this was bad. That's why I hadn't watched it. Is it as bad as they say it is? Oh, it lived up to the infamy. So
I've actually never seen it either, so I've got to go check it out now.
so the way I would put it is the first two acts are just plain bad, but
Yep.
the third act is hilariously bad. So at least the
Okay.
third act, it's so bad, it's good in a way because it's so ludicrous. The entire plot is ludicrous, but the first two acts are just plain boring. So
Okay. That
yeah,
is
probably
yeah.
one of the worst I've ever seen.
So I don't mind a bad film. I don't. I understand why people will criticize films. I understand the idea of a bad film, but if you can do something for me in a movie, I'm very patient. If you can entertain me, if you can show me something new, if you can do something well, I've got a lot of room for forgiveness. But one thing I won't tolerate is boring. Like you gotta,
Yes.
unless it's deliberately so. If it's deliberately boring because it wants to highlight something later, and I can see
Hmm.
that conveyed, okay, I get it. But
Right.
generally, boring is a pretty hard one to forgive. Um, and then my last question for you, Jenabeth, what movie should they never remake? We're in an age of remakes and requels and reboots and every other word you want to put RE in front of. What don't you want them to remake?
Well, I mean, I guess my good, safe answer would be Back to the
It's
Future, which
everyone's
was
answer.
discussed in this podcast. Like, it's hard to recapture that. That was a lightning in the bottle kind of movie. And I also feel the same way about the first Jaws, even though there's been like
Mm.
some horrible sequels after it. You also can't capture the lightning in the bottle from that either.
That's a real magic trick of a film. That's a film that 100% should not be as good as it is. Like, that is a B
Hmm.
movie, it's a Corman film, it should be forgotten in the times of, like, those old, like, kinda campy like, not slashes, but, like, those old, like, kind of creature features, and somehow, against all odds, the universe was like, "No, this is the film. It's just gonna work," so,
Hmm. Hmm.
um Jenabeth, you've been an absolute delight. I've been so excited to talk to you. I told you at the start, I'm a huge fan of all the stuff you've been doing online. And even though you're so new, such a new presence online, like, you're clearly here to stay and doing so well. And I'm always in awe of the stuff that you do. So thank you for giving me some of your time this morning or this evening for you. Before we get out of here, do you want to tell everyone where they can find you so they can give you a shout out and the support as well?
Sure. So you can find me on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram at Real Talk Jenabeth. So REEL, like film reels, talk Jenabeth, Jenabeth. I do movie reviews and reactions and ranking videos, and I love responding to all of my comments. So definitely check out my content, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about movies.
Definitely do it. It is, honestly, if there's a new Genometh video up online, my day immediately improves. I'm not even kidding. The most recent
you're, you're super sweet, James.
No, like, especially you, like, you went through your mum's letterbox top four, like, that delighted me to no end. And then your grandmother ranking, like, superhero hunks. I was just like, I would watch a whole series of just this. Like, it's amazing. And then on top of all that, not only is it entertaining and wholesome, the way you talk about films as demonstrated today, like, is just so compelling. Like, I could sit and listen to you talk about films forever. It has been an absolute pleasure and honor to have you on the show, and you're welcome back anytime. We can do that live action Disney comparison at some point if you like.
Right, I know. Yeah, at some point, yes. I'm glad I finally made a friend in Australia.
You're very welcome. Thank you everyone for listening. Hopefully you dug the chat. Go and support Jenabeth. It's so worth your time. Um, we'll be back next week with a Pod Squad show. Maddie and Nick will be back, and then I don't know who the next guest is going to be, but this one's going to be hard to top. Thank you all for supporting. Check us out on all the socials. We have a YouTube and a TikTok now. Everything is just I was a teenage film snob. And as I say every week on this show, guys, I was a teenage film snob, but I'm trying to be better. We'll see you next week.
Back to the future, Midsommar, Die Hard and Dune. Where's my car? The Matrix, Jurassic Park and Clerks, and Christopher Nolan's collected works. I was a teenager.